You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. This is Force 13 Live. We are again live tonight, tracking several systems that are out there. Our actual decision to go live was a bit of a surprise this evening because we were intending to do regular updates on these storms tonight, but the models have gone all out of whack on the graphics, so we've sort of been forced to go live so that we can continue to put forward our service, but I'm sure many people are glad of that. And we are going to be doing at least a full hour of coverage here with the latest on Hurricane Humberto, which is passing very close to Bermuda, potentially and probably delivering hurricane force winds, even though it's not looking quite so good on the satellite imagery. Tropical Depression Imelda still moving inland over Texas. And also Tropical Storm Lorena, which could become a hurricane before striking Mexico. We also have Tropical Storm Jerry, which has triggered tropical storm watches for parts of the Caribbean, and down the bottom of your screen we're looking at a lot of those Lesser Antilles islands and locations and their potential for tropical storm force winds and rainfall. So we're looking at everything on our split screen format tonight. All kinds of things going on, and I'm here in the studio. My name's Nathan Foy. I'm also joined by the team, which consists of quite a few people in this hour. I'm joined by Ryan, David, Ethan, who's showing us his screen right now, Cooper, Cesar, and Orlando. Good evening to you all.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's sort of one of those situations this evening where we are just looking around and it's a struggle to figure out where to begin, but I guess, in my opinion, I think we should be beginning with Humberto because that is the main hurricane threat right now, and those conditions are already occurring.
Yeah, I think hurricane force winds are already occurring on Bermuda, or should be very soon.
Hurricane force gusts are occurring on Bermuda right now.
Okay. Hurricane force gusts.
And we look at the imagery on the right-hand side of the screen, because half the left-hand side's broken for some reason. There's Mario, by the way, on the left. On the right-hand side there, again, somewhere in there, I'm trying to find where that is. Yeah, I can just about make out a little blue triangle outline, which is Bermuda. It's all on the very edge of the red zone now on the bottom right-hand side of the storm. Thankfully for Bermuda, the main core of Humberto is going to miss, and what the models have been saying quite consistently is that they're going to get maybe very brief hurricane force conditions tonight.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's looking like.
And then it will head off towards the northeast. And that was the voice just then of Cesar, and we've not heard from him on our live streams for the longest time. So let's see if we can get him to talk a bit about Lorena, which is affecting Mexico. Cesar, just off the coast.
Yes, Nathan. Lorena surprisingly formed yesterday and is already taking a bunch of intensity, and already some tropical storm force winds are feeling right now in the coast of Mexico, in the state of Jalisco and Nayarit principally. And Lorena, as I said, update of yesterday, that it could intensify into a hurricane because the conditions are absolutely favorable for further intensification. It's growing its size as well, and of course, it's not the west coast of Mexico is not going to be just the principal threat. Lorena will maybe will approach very close to the Baja California state.
Certainly could. I'm just trying to get some imagery of this on our screen now as well. we're going to have to do some editing out with that imagery. Just trying to get Lorena on the screen. There's a lot of different angles to tonight's stream. So many different systems, and a lot of them are triggering warnings. We also, of course, have Tropical Storm Jerry, which I think is capturing the attention of most of the media at this point, because it is taking a little bit of a track just northeast of what Dorian did, but it will recurve by the looks of things. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, it's definitely looking like it is going to recurve. Probably, I would assume some of those leeward islands could definitely get some rough conditions, but I think like the core of the storm will be well to the north, and it will be recurving. So I think the Bahamas will probably be out of the way with this storm.
Yeah, that's thankful indeed. There is a picture of Jerry on the left-hand side. That's how it's looking at the moment. National Hurricane Center went with 60 miles per hour at their last update. And tropical storm watches are in effect for St. Martin, St. Barthélemy, and they also put out warnings for Saba and St. Eustatius. If you've got any comments or questions for us tonight whilst we are on the air, please send them in. You can send them on the comment section on our YouTube page as we speak, and a few of them coming in already. And David, you're also simulcasting on Facebook tonight, and you can send in questions there too.
Yes, we are, Nathan. And welcome.
So on Ethan's screen, we're looking at the Eastern Pacific at this point, which I think is your favorite basin, right?
That would be correct. And looking on the satellite imagery, it's a mess over here. You've got, of course, the mess that is Tropical Storm Lorena and Mario off to the east. Lorena, I believe, is triggering hurricane warnings for the coast of Mexico.
Yep.
And then off to the west of those systems, you have Tropical Storm Kiko, which peaked as a Category 4 last week and is re-strengthening.
It is.
And
That could be back to hurricane status, but moving out to sea.
And then you got near Hawaii, you've got a mess that is part of Invest 91C, which looked really good yesterday.
Looks awful.
And then switching over here into the Gulf of Mexico, you've got Lorena stalling over Texas. Well, I should say moving slowly down. Perilous amounts of rainfall with a tornado
Imelda.
warning currently in
Yeah.
effect. Yes, Imelda. With a tornado warning in effect for Cove, Texas for the next 20 minutes for that area.
So that's a tornado warning that's currently in effect there. Just getting... I mean, we're going to have to play about with this imagery quite a lot here because I've only got one view at my disposal, just showing you the latest on Imelda there on the right-hand panel of our screen. That's now a tropical depression that's moved inland over Texas, and it looks like it's losing a lot of its shape at this point. The western side's looking rather dry, and a lot of it is being pushed east now. But some big convective flare-ups occurring in the last few moments there on near the coast, and I'm guessing that's where the tornado warnings are.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would be correct.
Unfortunately for the United States, always another major threat that are actually tornadoes. Of course, it's a plain terrain.
We're struggling with your signal at this point, Cesar. I think we got the gist of what you were saying, and I'm guessing that is moving off to the east, Ethan. Right? Looks like that to me.
You'd be correct there, Nathan.
So we'll try and keep you up to date on those tornado warnings as they continue to occur. So on the right hand side there, that's Imelda. We'll keep that on the screen for a bit longer. On the left, that's what Jerry looked like. And just bringing it back to Humberto as well, there's an animation of the storm in the last 6 hours or so, and how that one's been progressing. And everyone's thoughts on Humberto? It's been a strange one, hasn't it? It's never... its wind speeds have always been very sharply different at times to what its appearance would suggest.
Yeah, it has been like really. I mean, I think it was yesterday we were talking about when it was a Cat 2 and it looked like a Cat 4. Now it's kind of the opposite, I would say. Where it looks worse than it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a matter of hours, I was watching it earlier today, and the eye just disintegrated.
How long do you think it will be until Humberto clears Bermuda then?
Good question.
Probably not long, because looking at satellite imagery, they're already really, quote-unquote, leaving the storm already. They're on the outer fringes of the storm.
Interesting. Alright, well, we've got a bunch of questions that have already come in, and some people sending in donations as well to our coverage, and that is something, just like with the support that our team do, anything that people do to support our work, it's very much appreciated, because everything that we do receive is invested, whether it's financial or otherwise, straight back into what we do. That's what has made our coverage as good as it is, at least in our opinion. And questions coming in there. Is anything expected to happen with Invest 91C?
Well, I guess I'll take this question. Well, yesterday it was looking really good, almost honestly to TD status, honestly. But at this point, it's gotten caught up in a huge mess with other disturbances. It's got one to its east and one off to its west. So at this point, the CPHC is giving a 40% chance of development. It still could ultimately develop as it pushes off towards the northwest. But honestly, it's on borrowed time at this rate.
Borrowed time. Other questions. Do we think Jerry will hit the northeast?
Way too far out.
It's way too far out, yeah.
Yeah, that's like 2 weeks from now, probably.
We had a big
long
chorus
time
from
now.
the team just there.
Yeah.
And a reminder for everyone, just follow the a prediction of 3 days at the most.
Well, yeah, I mean, given some of the errors that we've seen in recent storms, not going to name names, you know, I mean, it's getting tough to trust anything beyond 3 days at the minute.
Well, actually, yeah, because the margin of mistakes increases a lot. We've seen it with Hurricane Dorian, unfortunately, and well, but we just can hope that Jerry will not affect any land and, of course, represent a major threat for the people.
Yep. Do we think Jerry has the right conditions for rapid intensification is another question that we get. So I see a lot of Jerry-related questions here. We'll just get that up on the screen left-hand side. There's some infrared geocolor imagery. Thoughts?
Personally, I think Jerry certainly does have the conditions to rapidly intensify if it can organize itself enough. The ship's model, I think earlier, was giving a 33% chance of rapid intensification. I'm not sure how many knots. I think it was something in 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's already been intensifying by quite a... I mean, I think it was just named this morning, and now it's at 60 miles. So it appears to be rapidly organized.
It's had a good start again,
I
hasn't
don't know
it?
if that's still the case. Yeah. Yeah.
And despite
it
all
really
the,
does. Looking at the...
Go ahead.
Just gonna say, looking at the satellite imagery, it still looks really got a good start. I do have to say.
Yeah, despite all the dry air and if there even is any wind shear around the storm, it's been pretty much everything's been going in the storm's favor so far. It's just a matter of time to see how long that'll continue.
Yeah, I believe. I'm not sure, but I believe they've done a upper level reconnaissance mission for Jerry, and there does seem that there is a chance that conditions might not be as favorable as they are at the moment, moving into midterm period within the forecast track. So
Now, I don't know. Now, I don't know if it was mentioned, but at the previous advisory, the most recent advisory for Jerry, there were tropical storm watches issued for parts of the Leeward Islands.
Yeah.
The government of St. Martin has issued a tropical storm watch for St. Martin. Mateo, France has issued a tropical storm watch for St. Martin and St. Barthélemy. And the government of the Netherlands has issued a tropical storm watch for Saba and St. Eusebio.
Yep. Do we think there might be another storm popping up in the Gulf of Mexico before the season ends? And that might be a good opportunity to bring up the latest National Hurricane Center map, which does have two areas of interest. They're not in the Gulf, but they are elsewhere in the Atlantic. Where are they? Coming up on the screen. There it is on the left-hand side. The 2-day forecast at the top, the 5-day at the bottom. Two areas of interest, one near Hispaniola, the other one could enter the Eastern Caribbean. Have we got any thoughts on these?
Now, the one south of Hispaniola is indeed what was Invest 96L, and that's been having a huge flare for convection recently.
You then think it was a mistake that they didn't deactivated that one?
Yeah, I do.
Yep. So that is something to watch.
I'm unaware of the conditions for that system, so it'll be interesting to see what the NHC says about it, because I haven't checked myself just yet, and also examining the environment, see any favorability, because of course Caribbean usually is vulnerable during this time of year, climatologically speaking, for tropical cyclones.
Well, most questions are about Jerry. Is there a possibility that it could continue westward and into southeast Florida?
Way too early to tell.
No,
I
think
don't. I don't
we
think
can
so.
say. I think
no.
we can say no on that one.
No. Yeah, that's a
Let's
no.
leave Florida in peace, please.
I think we can say no on that one. I know that people very quickly rise up and shout Dorian, but this one is further east to begin with. Just to give you an idea, Dorian made landfall and moved through Barbados and St. Lucia, and this one is already, in terms of latitude, about 100 miles north of Barbados, if you draw a line. So, you know, it's going to go way north of Dorian's track, and that by default means that it's going to more likely to go further north, and that is exactly what the models are saying as we look on our screen here. Looks like one of the good old days of the Atlantic storms that recurved out to sea away from all of those islands.
Yeah, if any land is going to get affected by Jerry long term, it's probably going to be Bermuda.
That's still long term, though.
Again.
Yes.
And Bermuda is just at the very top of that model, and it's quite difficult to see on the screen. But yeah, some of the southern models there do take the system further south, and it could well be a significant hurricane by then even. So we're certainly going to be on our guard on those islands that are under the tropical storm watch. But hopefully, if it does follow the center line of that track, I think they might get away with not getting tropical storm force winds, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, at the moment, the National Hurricane Center is forecasting a peak of 24 to 36 hours, and peak of 80 miles per hour, and then weakening they're out. But what's interesting is
I find that interesting that it weakens.
Yeah, it's interesting what their forecast calls for, because day 3, 4, and 5 are all the same intensity, just below hurricane intensity, and it could easily regain hurricane intensity even between those points, even, or even not even weaken at all.
Should the Windward Islands be concerned about the disturbance behind Jerry?
There's one. Oh, that disturbance.
Well, that's the Windward Islands further south, of course, and well, the disturbance is like the move through there. I mean, there's been quite a few potent disturbances this year. I don't know what the situation is, whether they've got flooding worries, but obviously even these disturbances can deliver flooding rains.
What I will say about disturbances affecting the Windward Islands is the Euro model has a storm forming behind Jerry, not the one that the NHC has marked, but one forming pretty much right as it emerges off of Africa, and then becoming a significant hurricane near the Bahamas.
Oh god.
In addition, that same model also has an Arabian Sea storm developing and pushing off towards the west.
Well, that sounds fun. Is there a chance of Imelda recovering and becoming a tropical storm again?
No.
I really don't see that happening. I'm just trying to get Imelda back on the screen again for those of you who are interested. There it is, some of it. Let's see if we can get... My windows have all gone wonky. Well, Imelda is there. You can sort of see part of it and those thunderstorms flaring up along the coastal area of Texas. Jumping around with lots of imagery, but we're throwing it back to Humberto because that's the main feature that we are looking at tonight. It's making its closest pass to Bermuda. At the moment, the center of the storm, I think, is probably at its closest point to Bermuda now. 76 miles, guys. So, what do we make of that? Let's just see. Yeah, just looking those latest images, I would say about an hour ago it made its closest pass to Bermuda at 75 miles, and now it's 76 miles. So that is good, potentially good news that the storm is now starting to move away. It could have ended up getting much closer than 75 miles.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely thinking it could have gotten a lot closer, but thankfully it didn't.
Let's just see if get some late visible. I don't think we have visible. Oh, there it is. Yeah, we've still got the visible. I should have shown this at the very beginning actually, because you can see Bermuda quite clearly there in relation to the storm. We've just lost the daylight now over the hurricane, but you can see where it was. And now let's see if we can flip through to the water vapor imagery as well as we look at Jerry again on the left hand side. And we're sort of all over the place when we're discussing all of these storms, because they're all important, because a lot of them have warnings pertaining to them. And just to remind you of all of those warnings that are out right now, obviously Bermuda is under a hurricane warning for Humberto because there's the potential for hurricane force winds. Certainly hurricane force gusts have been occurring. For Jerry, a reminder again, tropical storm watch for St. Martin, the whole island, both sides of it, St. Bartholomew and Saba and St. Eustatius. And in Mexico, we have got warnings out. Hurricane warning for Punta San Telmo to Cabo Corrientes, and tropical storm warning. I'll let Cesar read those ones out. I don't want to get the pronunciation too wrong on that.
No, but you said it correctly, San Telmo. So
No, the next one, Cesar. The next one, the tropical storm warning.
Can you repeat it? I lost the map, sorry.
Zihuatanejo, I think so.
Zihuatanejo.
Zihuatanejo to Punta San Telmo. I was nearly right then. And Cabo Corrientes to Punta Mita. Those are the tropical storm warnings that are in effect there for Lorena. That could be about to become a hurricane. Have we seen imagery of it? Let's just try and get some imagery of Lorena here and whether we think that's a hurricane or not. I don't have any actually.
Well, it looks pretty good.
We'll get Ethan on the case.
Sure can.
It's
Yeah, go ahead.
tropical hurricane.
It could be very soon. There's the models for Lorena on the left-hand side, and a lot of those models taking it to hurricane status. National Hurricane Center certainly thinks so, taking it to Category 2 now in 3 days' time. And still the model's in quite a bit of disarray about where it's actually going to end up. Somewhere near the Baja California Peninsula. And there's again the models for Tropical Storm Kiko, which will hang around hurricane status for the foreseeable future. That one could be quite a long-living storm, even though it won't be doing very much. One of those slow ones. The national... I'm sorry.
Will remain. Sorry.
We've got a delay as the issue here. Just to say, the National Hurricane Center will be updating all of these systems that have warnings within the next half hour.
So that would be Humberto, Jerry, and Lorena, correct?
Yeah, and I believe, have they updated the no, they've not updated that yet, have they? They're going to be updating the probabilities for a lot of those areas of interest soon as well. Anyway, over to Ethan.
Yep, here is Tropical Storm Lorena. It does appear to still be a tropical storm, but there is convection blowing up near the center. So that could be enough to signify winds of 75 miles per hour sustained, which would make it a hurricane. But based off of my analysis that I've gathered, this is not a hurricane at this time.
Here's a question that I ought to respond to. Have we ever thought of making other channels for different types of weather, such as fire weather? Well, we have all of our hurricane coverage here on the main channel, but we do have regional channels. We have Force 13 US, which covers everything that's going on in the US, naturally. It did cover the fire situation late last year, as I'm sure many remember. And it also does all kinds of other things with our US team. We also have Force 13 AU over in Australia. It does very much the same thing, run by David, who's also running our Facebook stream tonight. And we also have the UK and Ireland, which is my neck of the woods, which also gets decent coverage too. So we have Force 13, the main channel, which is all of the tropical updates, and those regional channels cover all the weather in those regions. And you can take a look at them. If you hop onto our channel page, they're all listed on the right hand side, I'm led to believe, unless YouTube have had another change of format again. Anyway, let's go into more questions. I think there's still some questions coming in here. Let's see. Question about Dorian. Which models were the most accurate? Well, we're thinking back now, but any thoughts on that?
That was.
I would not like to answer that question.
Well, really, it
To be honest, I
depends.
don't remember.
HWRF.
I think Force 13.
I will not say its name.
Force 13 isn't a model.
Well, let's suppose
I know
that
what
we
you're
have
referring to.
a model.
Alright.
No, but really, it's
hmm.
a plenty of models, but everyone was practically must agree with the NHC forecast. So I might disagree about which was the most accurate, because like everyone was the most inaccurate.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they had a terrible time with that storm.
Absolutely.
I did see this question come in. Please tag us though, because I would have missed it otherwise. Do we know if Maryland is overdue for a hurricane? They haven't seen one since Sandy.
It is a large question.
Don't know what your thoughts on that are.
I don't know. I mean, Sandy's just one storm. Like, what is the average return period for a Maryland hurricane?
That is a good question. Probably quite a long time for hurricanes, but for tropical storms, not so.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Did Sandy produce hurricane force winds in Maryland?
I don't know.
think so.
I don't know, but it did have a massive wind field. I wouldn't put it past it. Here's a question about the wave that's going to affect the Windward Islands. Would it be a rainmaker since it's at low latitude near the ITCZ line? And again, you can see it there down on the bottom of the center panel there. The 5-day outlook for that system. What do we think? And the room went silent.
What
Well,
was the question again?
just about that disturbance that's out there in the central part of the Atlantic Ocean, low latitude, and whether that might enhance the rainfall it might be producing when it reaches those islands.
Certainly. Certainly, any tropical cyclone has a potential to produce significant amounts of rainfall as opposed passes over land areas.
Well, even if it isn't a tropical cyclone, I think that's the point, isn't it? If it's still a disturbance there, it could still be a rainmaker.
Indeed.
An off-topic question. They admit it themselves. And that's a loud noise in the background there. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Could a hurricane like Faith from 1966 happen again in the next 10 to 20 years?
It's really difficult to say that it's going to happen.
I mean,
Well, it
that
really
is the
depends.
sort of thing that just happens randomly, almost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are similar hurricanes, but it could not exist a hurricane that can replicate another in the past.
Well, it really depends on what he's referring to. If he's referring to a weak MDR
mean,
storm, that's entirely
At
possible.
one
If he's
point, I
referring
thought Dorian was going to do a Faith, quite honestly, because that storm just wouldn't die, would it? Could you imagine if it was still a hurricane near the Faroe Islands? God.
Oh no, thank you.
More unrelated questions, but we're happy to take them, and this is sort of question time here with all these storms. How long have we been in operation? Well, I launched this project in the later part of 2011. We've been tracking operationally since 2012. The team formed in 2015. And any further questions, you might want to send over an email. Let's see, what else do we have here? There was something that just went by. They're going through quite quickly, so I'm losing track. Do we think we could have more storms like Dorian, but not as intense or the same track? So basically not like Dorian at all, is what you're asking.
Please.
And my answer to that would be yes. Of course we will get storms
of
that are
course
not
there
like
will be
Dorian in
storms
terms
like
of track or
Dorian.
intensity at all.
I mean, we kind of have that going on right now.
I was sorry to make light of that question, but you know, the grammar implies. So yeah, there was just a follow-up on that response there, and they said that yeah, they did have Category 1 winds in Maryland from Sandy.
Okay. So, I mean, I think hurricanes in Maryland are pretty rare.
And our very own Nelson asks about how large is the wind field in the storm in Humberto at this point, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. It is 76 miles from Bermuda. Its current wind diameter, hurricane wind diameter, radius in the southeast quadrant is 70 nautical miles, which is about 80 statute miles. So that would just about place hurricane force winds over Bermuda for about an hour or so. Gale force winds extend out 170 nautical miles to the southeast. That's about 195 miles. So that clearly covers Bermuda. They'll be getting strong tropical storm force winds tonight, and that will continue for a few more hours. Let's see what else we have here. Do we think there will be another Atlantic Category 5 hurricane? I assume you mean to say this year. Well, we still have the late season to talk about, where we could have some Caribbean development or Gulf even, as last year showed us.
Although I would say that it's unlikely, because I think there's only been a handful of years that have ever had more than one Cat 5, like 2007, 2017. No, it's not a lot.
Well,
Ryan,
think about the conspiracy theorists though right now, Ryan. 2005 plus 2, 2007, you got 2017.
No, no, no.
Well, usually the late season Cat 5 hurricanes occur in the Caribbean. So
Yeah, it'd
Then
be like
again-
a Caribbean.
Then again, something that didn't happen
Storm,
though
yeah.
is the year in between. 2006 didn't have any Category 5s, and 2018 did. So that's something to
that's
consider.
true.
what I will say
Conspiracy
is
will fail.
What I will say is the MJO phase is becoming very favorable for the Atlantic. And if rising motion continues in the Atlantic, then October has a significant potential, I would argue it already does, to be very active in the Atlantic.
God.
So Ryan, I wouldn't bet out on another Cat 5 yet. I wouldn't completely rule it out, honestly.
No, I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying that I think that it's statistically unlikely.
Yes.
Well, anything could happen.
Then again, there's other years where the Atlantic almost pulled it off.
1979, 1980 had Cat 5.
What was that, sorry?
Hello?
Sorry, just
Hello?
continuing the conspiracy.
Who's on the phone?
Sorry about that.
Orlando, any thoughts?
Yeah. When it comes to the conversation, I'd just like to add that when it comes to statistics, as we've seen many times, that's been tossed out the window.
Well,
beyond,
yeah.
Beyond that, I say anything can still go.
I think that's because we haven't really seen the extent of the natural variability. The statistics are a lot more well-rounded and predictable when it comes to, ironically, worldwide cyclone activity per year.
Yeah. But
Which is quite curious, because when you think about it, that's a lot more of a sample size, or the swings could be much higher, but they're not really. You generally get between 80 and 120 cyclones per year. Actually on the lower side of that, between about 75 and 110 usually. So that's not much of a spread when you think about that. Whereas in the Atlantic it can be anywhere from 3 to 26 or whatever it was. 28.
28, yeah. Well, if you're going by named storms, that is.
And the Western Pacific can be anywhere from about, 15 in 2010 or something like that, to
15 to 39.
39.
Yep, 39 in 1964.
And in 1939.
And
Thanks to Force
19...
13's retrospective analysis that we did extensively. Anyway, we are really just chunnering away a bit much there. Just to remind you, there are several systems active at this point. Hurricane Humberto is passing Bermuda at this point, 76 miles away right now, with winds from the National Hurricane Center of 120 miles an hour. They've got to downgrade that at the next advisory, surely.
Be surprised if they don't downgrade it.
And we'll get the extent of the National Hurricane Center advisories as soon as we get them. Well, that should be coming up in the next 20 minutes, so we'll bring that news to you as soon as we get it. We'll also have updates on Jerry and also on Lorena. So that's 3 systems that we're going to get updates from in the next 20 minutes. And just to see here, I figured the National Hurricane Center would be due to update those disturbance chances, but they haven't done so yet. They're usually very early with that sort of thing, so I'm a bit surprised to see that they've not done that just yet.
Yep, I'm watching the NHC page very closely at the moment.
And this is peak season. The National Hurricane Center have in the Atlantic 3 tropical cyclones, because Imelda still counts as one, and 2 disturbances. That's 5 systems. The Eastern Pacific has 3 tropical storms active and a disturbance. And by the way, that could, you get it. They Kiko and Mario both have 65 mile an hour winds. Lorena has 70 mile an hour winds. Just 10 miles an hour for all 3 of those. Put them all to hurricane status. I wonder when the last time that happened in the East Pac. And the Central Pacific has 3 areas of interest, so it's really busy out in the Western Hemisphere. The Eastern Hemisphere has gone all quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have to do with the shift in the MJO phasing.
Yeah, probably. But I will mention, though, that Invest 95W, I believe it is, has tropical cyclone formation alert. or at least it did. Yeah, it still does.
Yep, can't ignore that, and that has been designated a depression by the Japanese Meteorological Agency, so that could get a name in the next 24 hours. So there is one system out there in the Western Pacific, but usually at this time of year, it's not uncommon to see two major typhoons coexisting on multiple occasions.
Yeah, but Invest 95W has been a curious little creature. If I'm not mistaken, he's been active.
It's made me
since
very
September.
angry over the
Yeah.
last few days.
So 95W's been active, I think, for around 13 days, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely.
Wait, really? Wow.
And it's been through, I think, a TCFA by the DTWC 3 to 4 times. And it's failed all
No
all the
way.
time.
Completely flunked.
And I still don't think, even with the current TCFA, I still don't think it's going to develop.
Well, there we are. If you've got any more questions, please send them in. This is Force 13 Live. We are discussing the latest this hour, and we do have a few questions, because otherwise, why would we broadcast if we wouldn't answer your questions? I just don't see the point, personally. This is what we're here for. Some models have Humberto going extratropical in the next few days. Some have it keeping or regaining tropical characteristics as it approaches the UK. I don't think I've seen that anywhere. Time to check the models, someone out there. Ethan, are you going to have a look?
I have had a look earlier, and I haven't seen anything signifying Humberto regaining tropical characteristics due to the UK.
We cast out on that one, I'm afraid. So if you could send us an example, or list an example, which model run, then that might help us a lot. Will there be another Atlantic storm that directly affects the eastern seaboard this year? Humberto could easily have been it, but not quite. As we get later on in the season, those chances start to fade, but still we've got a good month, right, for systems to affect the eastern seaboard.
Oh yeah, there's probably like still a few weeks, maybe even up to like 6 weeks still. I think really till the end of October. I mean, yeah, there's still lots of time left in the season. It doesn't end until November 30th, but I think after October, I mean, nothing really happens in November.
Yeah, not much. I've just completely lost where I was in my flow here. We will get those updates shortly from National Hurricane Center. A question about the Indian Ocean. Is it quiet for the year? If you mean compared to average, then we've had is it the two that we've had so far? They've both been majors. Have there been any others?
Yeah, it's just Fani and Vayu, both of those were majors. And
Major cyclones. So I guess it's run out of energy for the time being.
Yeah,
Somewhat
I mean, it's
rare to see two majors in one season there.
Yeah, well, I think like Ace is 3 times the average thanks to those two storms.
In
Something like
terms
that.
of
It
storm
was
numbers, usually get a handful, but don't forget the main seasons there are May, June, and then a gap, and then you're looking October, November time. So we could still see a lot more activity to come over there.
Yeah, like probably once you get to like October, November is like the peak of the second, I guess, portion of the season, and then it starts to fade off by December. So yeah, there's still lots of time for stuff to form in the North Indian Ocean.
All right, more questions. Could Jerry threaten Florida?
Well, as I mentioned
No.
earlier, we can rule that out.
Pretty much ruling that out, and that takes a degree of confidence given what happened after Dorian, but I think we can rule that out. Not a single model takes it anywhere further west than the same longitude as the Turks and
Gonna have to
Caicos
interrupt you,
Islands.
Nathan.
Go.
We have the intermediate advisory on tropical storm Jerry. Additional tropical have been issued for parts of the Leeward Islands. The government in Antigua and Barbuda has issued a tropical storm watch for Barbuda and Antigua. Storm watches and warnings in effect.
Hold on, just to clarify, there is not a tropical storm watch for Antigua. It has been put into effect for Anguilla instead.
My apologies. But there is a tropical storm watch for the following: Barbuda, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bartolome, Saba, and St. Eustatus. That is in relation to Jerry.
So that's the latest news on Jerry. The bottom bar will reflect that as soon as I can type it in on my device here, and then we'll figure out where we stand with that. So Barbuda now under that tropical storm watch. I don't really know much about how Barbuda has been since Irma. Is there still nothing of the island, really?
I think that they've had a pretty good recovery, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not sure.
Well, there they are again. They're going to have to prepare once again here for potential tropical storm conditions. And what was put out by Cooper is quite interesting as well. We haven't got it on my screen here, so I can show you here on key messages. Jerry expected to become a hurricane before it moves close to the northern Leeward Islands on Friday. Although the core of Jerry is currently expected to pass north of the islands, tropical storm force winds and locally heavy rainfall are possible, and tropical storm watches have been issued for a portion of this area. So that is key messages there, only one for Jerry so far. Humberto has been the main feature that we've been looking at on our screens tonight on the right hand side. It's been making its closest pass to Bermuda. 76 miles or 75 miles was the closest pass, which possibly gives hurricane force winds only just for the island.
We have the tropical weather outlook for the Eastern Pacific.
They were late with that.
Yes, they were. We have a new area of interest. An elongated area of low pressure located over the far southwestern portion of the Eastern Pacific, this is near the international date line, is producing a few disorganized thunderstorms. Some slow development of the system is possible during the next day or two while the system moves very little. Formation chance through 48 hours and 5 days is the same at low 10%. For the other disturbance off to the east, the development chance has actually gone down for 5 days, down to 30%. It was 40% recently.
Very interesting.
Honestly, if I were at the NHC, I would have kept it at 40% because there's model support on that development.
Very curious indeed. We can still take a few more questions here. We've just got over 10 minutes. Do we know if anything will hit New York City?
Way too early to tell.
No, we really don't. It's probably not going to be Jerry, so...
Yeah. Probably nothing within the next 2 weeks. So, don't worry about it too much.
Do we think another storm like Maria could happen soon? Well, better hope not.
Hopefully not, yeah.
We're not crystal ball seers here. We really,
no, we're not.
You know, some people might in the community might pretend to know everything, but really, anyone who can tell you with confidence something that's going to happen beyond 5 days is kidding themselves and you. And anything that you would get right beyond 5 days is a fluke because it happens very rarely. What we can sometimes do is give you climatological hints of what might happen. That's why I was calling for most of the upcoming season this year for a potential Ivan-like storm in the Caribbean. We haven't really seen that. I mean, Dorian missed. It did it somewhere else. And I was really looking at the Carolinas for possible impacts for this year. At the start of the year, so
and Dorian
something that's sort of
happened
verified.
There, so
Also, we were looking at something
Yeah.
big for the Gulf Coast for this year, but that hasn't really happened. There's been a few chances for that to happen, but it hasn't really, has it?
I wouldn't rule it out, Nathan. As I said earlier, October certainly has the potential to be very active.
Certainly don't want
And
it to. I can tell you that.
Yeah, but typically
I
for October storms.
I almost say it as if, as a forecaster, I would not be happy to see my forecasts verify. Just to make sure everyone gets that. I will not be clapping around with glee when that sort of thing happens, even if the forecast is right. But we've got to be vigilant for that possibility later on in the season. Chances decreasing as time goes on. So, those prone areas nearly out of the woods, but, well, we've passed peak season, but there's still a lot more to come. What else do we have here?
We have the
An
image
update?
of the East Pacific outlook.
Oh,
And it's very interesting that actually that 40% area of interest, they have just gotten rid of it completely. And
they what?
they completely removed the 40% area of interest they were tagging, and now they've gotten one further west.
No way. That's remarkable.
And then you got a disturbance to the southwest of Kiko.
Yeah, we've not got it on our screen yet, but there it is from Ethan. The new 2 areas of interest there, both low chance in the next 5 days.
We have the CPHC outlook. Invest 91C has been decreased to 20% chance in both 48 hours and 5 days, so it looks like that will not be developing. And the System 2 91C's west, that has been decreased to 10%. And then the one southeast of Hilo, Hawaii, has been decreased to 0%. That will be the last outlook issued on that disturbance down there.
So it looks like they've been running a bit slow at the Hurricane Center tonight, probably because there's so many storms out. We're still awaiting those storm updates, apart from Jerry, which we've received, and they kept it at 60 miles an hour and 1,000 millibars. But we are waiting for Humberto and for Lorena with their updates. Unless Ethan's got one. Are we hearing no change from Lorena? 70 miles an hour, 993 millibars.
No update. Oh, there's the update on Lorena. Lorena sent her obliquely approaching the coast of Colima and southern Jalisco. Rain band continues to spread onshore. Maximum Thursday winds remain at 70 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure also remains at 993 millibars.
Well, that's a shocker.
Our hurricane warning is in effect. Well, my bad if I get pronunciation wrong on these. Punta San Telmo to Cabo Corrientes.
That was not so bad, but it was Jalisco, not Jalisco, as you said earlier.
My apologies, and I'm not even going to try to read the tropical storm warning place.
Tropical storm warning for Zihuatanejo to Punta San Telmo and Cabo Corrientes to Punta Mita over the next few days. I don't profess to have a very good handle of the pronunciation in those areas, but we'll do our best here and help each other out.
At long last,
yep.
The NHC have released the GWO for the Atlantic. What was Invest 96L has a 10% chance of formation in 40 hours and 5 days, and
No
the
change
low
there.
to the and I believe there's also no change on the area of interest to the east of Jerry, 0% in 48 hours, 30% in days.
So no changes after all that. And just to remind you as well, regarding Lorena, interest in Baja California Sur should monitor the progress of the storm. Watches may be required for the peninsula this evening or overnight. And the hazards expected there, mainly, obviously, the winds could be tropical storm or hurricane conditions along the coast, and rainfall expecting accumulations of 5 to 10 inches, with maximum amounts of 15 along the coastal sections of the Mexican states of Guerrero. I can't remember how to pronounce that one. Michoacan, I've no idea. Colima and Jalisco. This rainfall may produce life-threatening flash floods and mudslides, and also swells and potentially life-threatening surf and rip current conditions. That's from Lorena, which the imagery not showing up on that screen just then. And there's Mario jiggling about on the NOAA floater there too. That one, there won't be an intermediate advisory on that. That will still be 65 miles per hour and a pressure of 998 millibars. Same with Kiko. The next update on those will come out late tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern. That is 8 p.m. Pacific.
We're still waiting on the intermediate advisory from Humberto.
And Nathan has some news. The Vortex crew, a weather chasing group, have just put out a posting. 2 different tornado warned storms are currently taking place now east of the Houston area. One known tornado has already occurred this evening in the area. That's in the Houston. So one confirmed and another one possible.
Another question that's come in there is Imelda dumping as much rainfall as Allison did? I would guess no, but if someone wants to load up accumulated radar, that radar storm total, that would be pretty good too.
I can simply tell you now, the rainfall estimates are nowhere near Allison.
Yeah. That's
I do want to add on to what David was saying. There are 2 tornado warnings currently in effect. The western tornado warning is radar indicated. However, the eastern one, there is a confirmed tornado on that storm at the moment.
And the location for that confirmed tornado, Baytown?
Around there.
That's along the coast, isn't it?
Yep. There's a tornado warning to the southeast of Baytown, and there's the one to the northeast. And the one to the northeast is confirmed tornado one.
So just to give you an indication for Tropical Storm Imelda, very short-lived tropical storm. Just trying to figure out here how much rain has fallen in the region. For some reason, this isn't loading for me. I would have been able to tell you, but that is completely not working. I think we've had a complete outage here. But what I was seeing on the radar before, at any rate, is that I imagine that there is going to be quite a lot of accumulations where those tornado warnings are.
We have the intermediate advisory on Hurricane Humberto. Remarkably, maximum sustained winds remain 120 miles per hour.
I can't quite believe that.
And the minimum potential pressure remained at 952 millibars.
Well, there we have it.
And currently, hurricane conditions are occurring on Bermuda.
From being the best-looking Category 1 I've ever seen 2 days ago, to one of the worst-looking Category 3 storms I've seen at this point. We thought we were going to get a normal storm from Humberto, but that clearly hasn't happened. How do they square that? I don't know how they figure out that that is still a Category 3.
Yeah, honestly, looking at it now, I would have gone with a Cat 2 at this point.
A 120 at that, not just 115. Well, there we go.
And that 120 estimate is without recon too.
Without recon. Now, is that a case of, well, it's an intermediate advisory, it's still a threat to land, we don't have any contrary evidence, we'll just keep it at 120 miles an hour? You think so?
And
probably. That's probably the case.
David?
Reed Timmer, another tornado between Beach City and Morgan's Point, Texas, at around 6:45 p.m. with stalks still rotating like top. And National Weather Service tornado trigger account. Tornado warning continues for Chambers County down there in Texas.
Is that particular tornado warning confirmed on it? If you look on the graphic, you should see it on the left.
Yeah, National Weather Service, yeah, that's a confirmed warning.
So, what is the situation right now then?
Confirmed tornado on the ground still.
1 tornado warning or 2?
There are 2 right now. And I believe now both are confirmed tornadoes.
Both are confirmed. Do we have some screen sharing abilities here so we can see something? Because I did not have the capabilities
I'm
right here.
Trying to pull up the boxes at the moment.
Yeah, so this is a developing situation at this point. There are tornado warnings in effect. We'll get you some information on that in just a moment. There is also a flash flood warning occurring just south of Houston. Tornado warning was issued 2 minutes ago. I think this is 7 p.m. Is that the current time there now? Yeah. So, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing tornado located over Beach City, moving northeast at 20 miles per hour. Take cover now. That dangerous storm will be near Beach City and Cove at around 7:15 p.m. Central. That is a tornado warning that's in effect. I'm only seeing one here right now. Until we get some more news, I've got to tell you also about several flash flood warnings that are in effect too in the Texas area. This is really developing quite quickly. League City has issued a flash flood warning for east central Fort Bend County, north central Brazoria County, and south central Harris County in southeastern Texas. That is in effect until 7:30 p.m. tonight Central Time. At 6:22 p.m., that was earlier in our hour of coverage, a flash flood warning was issued for west central Chambers County and southeastern Harris County, and also issued just a minute or two ago a new flash flood warning for northwestern Jefferson County and southeastern Hardin County in Texas. That is until 9 p.m. This is developing right now, and this is becoming quite serious. Flash flood warnings in effect and tornado warnings. This is not what I was prepared for tonight, so we're a bit slow with the graphics. There is one of the tornado warnings on our screen now. That is occurring in this region here near Beach City, that one. Tornado radar indicated, and that is the extent of the warning zone. That's until 7:15 p.m. Central Time.
That second graphic that I actually posted, that has since expired, actually. Expired 2 minutes ago. And that first tornado warning that Nathan was indicating, that will expire in 13 minutes.
The one that's pictured there, that's the one that has just expired. Okay, so that is the one that is not current. So, am I right in saying there is just one out right now?
Yes, there is one tornado warning with a radar indicated warning at the moment.
So there we go.
Are no tornadoes on the ground at the moment.
Well, that's quite a way to end an hour, isn't it? That is Imelda. The storm itself is weakening the depression, indeed. And I think these are the final flare-ups that we're seeing, that they are producing tornado warnings at this time. We're finishing up our coverage just at this moment. What we will do, at least for a little while, we're going to grab some more graphics, we're going to get them onto the screen, and we're going to keep this stream up for a little while longer tonight and run a scroller down the bottom with the latest tornado information down there in Texas. Very active tropical situation tonight. Thanks for joining us on our stream. It's been rather interesting so far, and well, still a lot more to go with Imelda, clearly, with that tornado warning that is now in effect there. The Central Pacific got 3 yellow shapes now in that region. That's a rather interesting situation. And also a reminder that on Friday night we are premiering our documentary on how Force 13 covered Hurricane Dorian, a full hour-long feature-length film that will be premiering on our channel at 7 p.m. Friday night. That's Eastern Time. For now, though, that's it from us. Humberto is starting to move away from Bermuda. Hurricane force winds will be leaving very shortly, if not already. And now we look towards Mexico as well as many other places, the Lesser Antilles as well, for our next potential hurricane impacts. This is peak season, it never stops, and we'll keep it rolling here for a little while longer tonight with those tornado warnings. Thanks for watching, good night.